And then welcome to Leading Like Nature, Transformational Strategies for Productive, Purpose-Driven Teams. My name is Sarah Coles, and I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Children in Nature Network. We're excited to have you with us today. We are recording our session today, so thank you so much for joining us. To save bandwidth for all of our attendees and for a clean recording, we ask everyone to turn off their cameras and mute themselves during the presentation. I'll be monitoring the chat so you can share your questions there, and I'll share them with our presenter. Please remember to keep the comments in the chat kind. Yasmin Anderson is running tech for us today. Thank you so much, Yasmin. As I said, we're recording the session and we'll share it up in a follow-up email. If you're uncomfortable with your name showing, you can change your name to anonymous and then private message Yasmin with your name for our attendance. Also, if your Zoom name doesn't match the name you registered with, please change your name or let me know. And if you need a certificate for this workshop and we don't have your name, we won't be able to provide you that certificate. And just a reminder, if you need that certificate, just follow the directions that were in the email that you got the Zoom link in. Now go ahead and do our land acknowledgement. Texas Children in Nature Network is headquartered in Austin, and as such, I'm on the ancestral and unceded land of the Tonkawa, Comanche, and Sauna people. Our ongoing colonial presence on Indigenous lands compels us to take action now to counteract the effects of colonization. The work we do through the Texas Children in Nature Network is one small step towards that effort. And in just a second, I'm going to put some links about land acknowledgements and those people groups in the chat. But now I'd like to go ahead and welcome our speaker. Sharon Barnes is with Bloom Solutions. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sharon, and take it away.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you so much, Sarah. So I am going to start sharing the PowerPoint here so we can go ahead and get started. And let's see. So Sarah, can you see that?
We are all good.
Okay, we're good. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so much, Sarah, for the introduction. And like Sarah mentioned, my name is Sharon Barnes. And I just started a new business called Bloom Solutions, but that acronym means Barnes leads in the outdoors outreach and mentoring. And today we are going to have some creative fun. So I'm really excited about today. And we're thinking about team collaboration in a different way. And so this is what we will call Leading Like Nature, Transformational Strategies for Productive Purpose-Driven Teams. So to dive into that title just a little bit more, we will be exploring the fascinating realm of nature-based leadership, an approach inspired by the principles of nature that fosters growth both personally and professionally, as well as within our communities. So whether you are a passionate conservationist, a dedicated community member, an educator, like my husband, or a leader in any domain, this method is designed for you. I would also be remiss if I did not mention that I have my notes today. So you will see me glancing at them, but this is mostly just to keep me on topic because sometimes I get too excited about new topics like this. And so this is an area that I'm also continually learning and growing as well. So we're actually learning and growing together today. Okay. So a little bit about me before we get started. So I talked about the acronym and starting Bloom Solutions, but I wanted to give a little bit of my education background and professional journey. So I hold a bachelor's degree in wildlife management from Texas Tech University and a master's of human dimensions of wildlife management from Mississippi State University. And this is kind of the first stages of me leaning on the foundation of finding out my approach to leadership, but also emphasizing the relationship between humans and the natural world. So I also have 23 years of federal service, and I've had the privilege to work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Bureau of Land Management, as well as the Department of Homeland Security, where I've held various roles, some of them being wildlife refuge manager, environmental education, getting out there, getting those hands on the lands with young people. I think that's the most passionate one that I've had so far, but also as a workforce recruiter. And so each position has uniquely contributed to my understanding of leadership and team dynamics. These experiences have influenced the creation of Bloom Solutions, where our mission is to inspire growth by fostering outdoor adventures and purposeful leadership. One thought that continued to arise during my career is that conservation, natural resources, sustainability, green careers, regardless of what you call it or what title or role, um, we are very passionate led people that have very passionate led positions. And so the way that I look at it is like we're literally trying to save the world. That's a big task. So, how do we recenter ourselves? So we'll ponder on that as we continue to move on in the presentation. So let's dive into the discussion. And so on our journey today, I will provide an overview of nature-based leadership, like what I would consider the nature-based leadership model, and why this matters for purpose-driven teams. I will also discuss on a high level the distinct differences between traditional leadership and nature-based leadership. Then I'll provide the 6 key principles of nature-based leadership. These fundamental concepts can help us to tap into nature's wisdom, to foster purpose-driven and high-performing teams. We will also discuss how metaphors, which is another exciting part for me, how metaphors drawn from the natural world can inspire teams. And then lastly, because I'm also a visual learner, I know it helps to see examples and see how these practical applications and interactive team practices, like how do we put them to use? So we'll spend a little time doing that as well. Okay, so with my education background, we have to start the session with an engaging activity. Used to call them icebreakers. We're going to call it a little something different. Engaging activity, and it's called ecosystem introductions. So this is a creative and insightful way to connect with each other and set the tone for our session. So now think about yourself in the context of nature. If you were a natural element, a plant, a tree, an animal, a landform, or any natural property, what would you be? Consider what best reflects your personality. So once you've identified your element, please write it in the chat along with a brief sentence, doesn't have to be much, explaining why it represents you. This activity is not only a great icebreaker, but it also aligns our theme of the nature-inspired leadership. So while you're doing that, remember this is a Bloom Solutions signature icebreaker engagement activity designed to foster understanding and appreciation for our unique traits. Let's take a moment to share and learn from each other. So we'll just give it a minute or so, Sarah, and I'm not sure if my new update to Teams, I mean to Zoom allows me to see the chat too, but if you could read it off to me as some of them are coming in, that'd be great.
I certainly will.
Thank you. And while we're waiting, I can share mine too. Let me know. Okay, I'll go ahead and start. So I used to be an animal. Now I'm a plant or a flower, I guess. So mine is sunflower. And the reason why I feel like I resonate and my personality resonates with a sunflower, because I, just like a sunflower, love to turn towards the sun. So I always try to look at the bright side of things. I also believe it to be that I'm radiant and cheerful. Again, you have to ask my husband for that if it's 24 hours a day, but that's what I feel in my spirit. And then I feel like I stand tall and I'm very resilient, just like our sunflowers.
Great. And we're starting to get some in. We have from Ada, a butterfly, they transform.
I love it.
I put for myself a great blue heron, often quietly working at the task at hand. Melody, Brown bear.
Okay.
Corinne says a bunny, very busy and always looking for snacks.
Oh.
Nicole, a migratory bird. I like to travel but love my home. Kelly, I think I'm an owl that reflects my personality, often hanging out and learning from the surroundings, but not trying to draw attention. Joyce, a brown pelican. They can dive deep from a high level and glide through the sky as a team. Fidel, I'm connecting with my orchid because it rests and takes time, a long time to bloom.
Love it. Love it,
And
love
oh,
it,
we've
love
got
it.
one more.
One more.
Dia.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll do Dia's. Sunrise and sunsets, they describe my spirit.
Oh, yes, I love that. Thank you. And thank you all for participating and sharing. That was really great. So, so as we're moving forward in this section, I think it would be very important to identify or define what nature-based leadership is. So the definition provided by the Natural Leader, which is a nature-based leadership developmental and executive coaching consultancy, is that it's a philosophy that draws inspiration from the natural world and works with innate intelligences to guide individuals, teams, and organizations towards success. So to further highlight the natural leader, yep, the website is on there as well on the slide. Their approach combines leadership intelligence and systems thinking with nature's 3.2 billion years of wisdom. It's a lot of wisdom on how individuals and systems thrive, adapt, and endure. They further provide that the results is what this results in is a healthy, optimal, and enduring leaders who create transformational change through exceptional human connection and communication. So let's unpack this. So for a minute, consider how nature operates with balance, adaptability, and interconnectedness. So these elements are crucial in fostering effective leadership. They encourage us to slow down, like I just did, to slow down, listen, and to adjust, much like an ecosystem does. As we explore this further, think about how these ideas resonate with your own experiences and how they may be applied to your teams or your projects. So following up from the last slide, let's talk about why nature-based leadership for teams is something that we should even ponder on or look at. So in our fast-paced world, many teams are stretched thin. So if you can, with I think it's the hand raise bar, raise your hand if you are one of those people that's leading a team, if you're a part of a team that you feel like you're pretty stretched thin at times. It doesn't have to be now. And if your supervisor's on, that's all right. You can keep your hand down. Or if you're a team of one and you feel like you're stretched thin. I see those hands coming up. Yeah, yep. Mine's is up too. I resonate with you. So nature-based leadership is a powerful approach that can potentially help reduce the burnout by encouraging teams to slow down. There goes that word again, slow down, reconnect, and work intentionally. One of the key benefits is enhanced communication and trust. So when team members feel connected to each other and their environment, they communicate more openly and build stronger relationships. This recenters purpose-driven professionals, allowing them to thrive collectively. Further, nature-based leadership strengthens emotional resilience. It equips teams with the ability to adapt to challenges, improving overall productivity. By embracing this approach, teams not only adhere to their goals, but do so with a renewed sense of purpose and well-being. So as a recap, embracing nature-based leadership isn't just a strategy, it's a transformative journey that redefines how we work together. So I'll also note that I've had this question come up before, and it's, I love this concept, but I'm not really an outdoors person. So I will say that you do not have to be an outdoor enthusiast to connect and use the properties of the natural world to recenter you. And again, in some of the exercises later on, we'll talk about that in a little bit more. Go. So what's next? So let's explore the contrast between traditional leadership and nature-based leadership. So, in looking at a few different definitions, this is kind of like a synopsis. Traditional leadership often emphasizes like command and control, like a structure where a single leader is expected to hold all the answers, hierarchy and urgency with a focus on output at all costs. In contrast, nature-based leadership offers a new paradigm by viewing organizations as complex ecosystems that thrive through collaboration. So through collaboration, through feedback loops, and resilience. There goes that word again. There's a few that will keep coming up. Embraces responsiveness, interdependence, adaptation, and regeneration. So those are some of the from the paradigm of the nature-based leadership, some of the high points and the differences between. So in summary, transitioning from a traditional to a nature-based approach encourages us to think of leadership as more than just managing tasks. It's about nurturing growth and fostering a supportive environment. As I asked you before in our reflective thought, consider how these nature-inspired qualities can transform your leadership style, and benefit your team's dynamics. Let's keep this framework in mind as we dive deeper into the key principles of nature-based leadership. So now we will actually start looking at some of those key principles. So the natural leader defines the key principles of nature-based leadership as the planet is our only stakeholder and nature holds the solutions. This means that by observing natural ecosystems or natural systems, we can discover innovative solutions to our leadership challenges. Next, consider that leadership is a living system. Just like nature, effective leadership is dynamic and adaptive. There goes adaptive again. It's about growth, change, and resilience. All words we have used earlier in previous slides to wrap our minds around this thought or around nature-based leadership. A vital concept here is also that leaders are guardians. And I really had to, I had to read and research a little bit more to understand this one. And it is that we have the responsibility, not just to our teams, but to the world around us. And that's kind of the guardian aspect of it. In nature-based leadership, every change begins with the individual. This ties into the idea that our planet is our only true stakeholder. So finally, empowering others to drive sustainable change is crucial. This is about fostering environments where everyone can contribute to meaningful progress. By embracing these principles, we can lead with greater purpose and impact. So now to one of my favorite parts. So how can we, just these little small, subtle things that we can do that inspires teams through metaphors. So here are some of my favorites that take me directly to the natural environment. So as I'm reading through these, think about going directly to this environment and seeing what I'm seeing. They are simple, but provide a visualization that may be more relatable. First, consider forests. They serve as a reminder that diversity strengthens ecosystem. Just as a variety of plant life sustains a healthy forest, the unique strengths of our diverse team members enhances our collective capabilities. Just unpack that for a minute. Now we're going to go to a river. Next, rivers illustrate the flow and that the flow fosters progress. When our teams collaborate more collectively, we advance seamlessly, adapting to changes, much like water navigates through obstacles. Now we're going to go to our pollinators. Pollinators teach us that even small actions can have a significant impact. The contributions of bees and butterflies, though we may think it's minor, play vital roles in sustaining ecosystems, much like the individual efforts of team members that can lead to substantial outcomes. So each team member is a pollinator. I love it. Okay, finally, fire ecology. So let's think of a prescribed burn. So fire ecology exemplifies that transformation is a natural process. Embracing change and renewal is essential for fostering growth and resilience with our teams. So nature's metaphors provide a framework for understanding our teamwork dynamics, making leadership more intuitive, accessible, and memorable. So what does this look like in a practical term? So these metaphors, you can start your staff meetings off with them, or your weekly team meetings to provide inspiration for the work to come. And your teams will see how they can work together as a forest, as pollinators, as a prescribed burn or fire ecology. So because also I mentioned the visual learning aspect, I also wanted to just think about if you're what type of audiences this can be related to when we talk about nature-based leadership, or even when we're talking about team dynamics. So let's start with organizations and teams. Embracing nature-inspired decision-making can enhance how teams operate. Introducing team rituals, like we had mentioned before, with the metaphors that build trust, and incorporating outdoor reflection practices can deepen connections and foster a more cohesive work environment. For environmental or nature-focused professionals, emphasizing purpose-driven leadership and ecological thinking can align their work more closely to the values and their motivations, like why they want to do the work anyway. Most of the time we come into the work because we have an innate respect for nature and the environment. So now bringing that into some of the ways that we work with our teams is also very important. This alignment is essential for sustained energy and passion. And community members can also benefit greatly by using accessible wellness tools. And so defining wellness tools a little bit more, like leading a replanting of a community garden, and engaging in confidence building outdoor experiences, like engaging in a beginner hike. Leadership becomes more inclusive. And so it's about rooting leadership in both culture and nature, making it relatable and grounded for everyone involved. So I'll pause for a minute and do a reflection time again. As we move into our first exercise, keep these applications in mind. Consider like where you sit on or what audience you actually may relate to a little bit more, and how you can bring some of these nature-based leadership models to your teams or to your individual sites. Now my environmental education brain is back on again. And so we are at an example of interactive team exercise. So before we start, I will tell you that this is again, another Bloom Solutions exercise that can be done in an hour, or it can be done as a half-day session, full-day session, depending on how you kind of want to stretch it out and what else you want to add to it. And so I will also add that these type of team exercises, it's ideal to be as close to nature as possible. So if there's a gazebo, or somewhere outdoors that, everybody can gather and there's enough space, or just, in any other type of natural place. If that's not available, maybe a room in the office that has more windows than not, and an opportunity to at least be exposed to nature and the sun and seeing the outdoors. So this one is called Forest Roles and Team Ecology. So it's an interactive activity designed to deepen our understanding of team dynamics through nature-inspired lens. So let's begin by envisioning a team as a thriving forest ecosystem. So picture the tall trees, those who provide stability and vision. Think about the little saplings full of potential and fresh ideas. Consider the pollinators. I love my pollinators. I'm going to mention them every time, who foster connections, and the mycelium networks that facilitate unseen support. What are the nutrient sources that sustain us, and what gaps might exist? So really, this is like a team getting together and mapping out those roles and asking themselves or asking yourself in the team, who are the deep-rooted trees in our team? Are those the subject matter experts? Or those, is that the person we say, oh, ask Kelly, she knows everything. Has she been there 20 years? Has she just, she's just has all the knowledge? Also, who brings the new growth? So we think about emerging leaders, emerging green leaders, who's new to the team that may bring us that new growth. Where are the gaps? And gaps can mean, whatever you feel like your team has a gap or a deficiency in. And what supports the ecosystem? And I guess that means like, what advances, like do y'all, is there a family structure, a team structure? How do you support the ecosystem and keep everybody engaged and involved in the work that they're doing? Reflect on what you noticed, the strengths that emerged, and new opportunities for collaboration. Through this exercise, we aim for a clear understanding of our roles and how we can collaborate more effectively. This clarity will pave the way for more cohesive teamwork and innovation. So in a real life scenario, which I was hoping to put on the slide here, I just ran out of time. It would actually, people use different ways to do the mapping. Some actually map it out with drawing. Some of it looks like charts, but it's great to actually see how those force roles are articulated in the ways that they are articulated depending on the team. So we will go to another exercise just to give, remember, visual learner here that's teaching. So I think it's always great to give another example of what nature-based leadership looks like in its actual form. And so this is one of the activities that I actually really love as well. I know I say I love them all, but I really like this one as well. And so this one's called nature-based decision-making. So this is a chance to practice applying nature's principles to a real decision, like something that you're working on with your team, that you're working on individually, and you're trying to enhance your clarity, your alignment, and problem solving. You're trying to solve it or at least get it moving forward. So here's how it works. So you form a small group. And again, so we're going back to our setting, right? Hopefully outdoors, maybe in a nature center, an opportunity to disengage from the office space. If your office space is a nature center, maybe visiting another nature center, but separating out into small groups or whatever your team would be. And selecting a real decision from a team member or a shared team challenge. So, dealing with real scenarios here. And you're going to discuss the 5 lenses. So responsiveness, consider the signals, the feedback, or early indicators that are showing up. So what this means for in real life scenario, what are some of the things that are when you're writing it down um, for your real challenge, what's coming up right away? Like, I may not meet this deadline on this, or, this is something we're really struggling to get past phase one, and we really need to be in phase two. Adaptability. Think about what needs to shift or evolve in your approach. Is it that we need to involve more people, or more stakeholders? Or is it that we just need to not be like me, a overachiever, and look back on maybe, putting this in smaller phases, whatever that may be. But that's the adaptability part. Interdependence. Reflect on who is affected by the decision and who can support it. So again, who is there? Do we have everybody at the table that should be there? Are we missing an avenue that we should be exploring? Regeneration. Identify what restores energy and momentum versus what drains it. What are you spending your most of your time doing regarding this challenge? And is it beneficial or is it not? What's draining it and not making it move forward. And the stability part discusses what values, boundaries, or commitments must remain rooted. So what are some of the bottom lines that need to continue? Like, if out of this you realize I do need to, it still needs to stay in two phases. We just need to be more strategic, when we're implementing stage two or phase two. So finally, each group should identify one. So each group, if you're in a group or your team, should identify one actionable next step, because this is the overall goal, is that through this nature-based decision making, you find out that next actionable, the next step, especially if you're stumped or you're stuck. Inspired and looking at this, inspired by natural principles that everybody resonated with the most. So remember, the goal is to draw inspiration from nature to make decisions that are not only effective, but also sustainable and supportive for your team's ecosystem. I would be remiss also if I didn't mention, again, this is not just a 20-minute session. This can be unpacked into a few hours of a brainstorming and decision-making session, or this can end up being, over a few different weeks, and helping to make a few different decisions based off of a project or an idea or a challenge. So with that, I could continue to provide more examples. But I think I'd like to just go ahead and start wrapping it up a little bit and sharing a little bit about how I got to where I got to with this nature-based leadership. As I mentioned before, I am still learning and growing from the nature-based leadership model. And these are some of the sites and some of the references that I look to get a little bit more insight about it. You'll also see nature-based leadership be identified as regenerative leadership. And nature-based leadership, there's a nature-based leadership institution or institute. I don't think it's an institution, institute at Antioch University, in which I have the link provided there. And Sarah will also be sharing a copy of the PowerPoint as well. And then, oh my gosh, books. Through my literature review, I have started to collect books that I'm still unpacking and trying to get more insight into the nature-based leadership model. And so I wanted to at least share some that have been very instrumental in the way that I'm looking at introducing this model to everyone. So nature-based leadership, lessons for living, learning, and serving. And this is in my way, I can't read the rest. Serving and leading. I started off with Stephen Jones's, it's a book of essays. It's been very inspirational. Dr. Jones was actually one of the individuals that started the Nature-Based Leadership Institute. And then, right now I'm into the Nature Fix, why nature makes us happier, healthier, and more creative. So again, just wanting to share those resources with you as well. And I think lastly, um, I like this quote: when teams grow like nature, people bloom. So with that, I will pause because I'm done. Look at that. I'm done with the presentation part, but I know we have some time for questions if there are any. So
Thank you
Sarah,
so much, Sharon. I'll give folks some thinking time,
okay.
but I will
Yes.
say the timing of this is so fortuitous because I'm literally this week writing up our board retreat plan for the end of this month. And so thank you so much for all of your insights because I took lots of notes of things that I want to put into our board retreat. So,
I'm so happy to hear that.
any other questions out there? I
No worries.
will say we have an evaluation, so if y'all wouldn't mind filling out the evaluation that helps us plan for future webinars and help me share it with Sharon so she gets to see how she's doing. And as all many of us on this call are educators, we all know how important evaluation is to the process. So if you wouldn't mind filling that out for us. And then our next webinar is actually next week, and it is accessible to whom? Recommendations for equitable green schoolyards. So we hope you can join us there. Oh, and we have a question. See, I talked long enough.
Yes, yes, talked long enough. Yes.
Fidel asks, I'm curious if you have a ritual that builds trust to share that you have implemented, trying to think of ideas for that.
Oh, that's good. So first, hi, Fidel, and thank you so much for joining today. So for building trust, I'm actually working on, that was actually a request from another individual that I'm consulting with. And so the trust one is a little bit more challenging just because it's the way that I'm starting to unpack it is that it's not just a one-off type of example of nature-based leadership. It's like a few different exercises that have to be extended out a little bit more. And then it also determines on what level. I mean, are we talking about a supervisor and an employee, or are we talking about a team? So to be continued, Fidel, but I'd love to share what I'm starting to research and learn a little bit more on. That's a really good question.
Okay, any other questions out there? From Dia, do you have an opinion on using this methodology for recruiting?
Ooh, that's a good one. Hmm. Like recruiting new employees to an agency?
And Dia, feel free to take yourself off mute.
Yeah, that might be easier because my typing is horrible. I'm thinking about team building for, trying to select the best people for a particular kind of team. So that, how can I say, some way to identify how everyone kind of sees
Yep.
the, sees the world about how to get things done.
Yes, I love that. So yes, so um, a way that I think it can be involved in recruiting is by sharing that, the team is involved in nature-based leadership principles, explaining that a little bit more and finding out how that new team member or, who you're recruiting would relate to it. Because I think what you'll find is like the example, like when we did the introduction, the ecosystem introduction. People will start to acknowledge a different connection than what you're expecting. So I think it could be an opener to the culture of the agency, or the culture of what you're doing, by saying we openly practice nature-based leadership principles, but open that up for them to identify where they belong in that, or where they identify in that. They may say, I love that, because I am, I'm really good at, providing thought-provoking insight, kind of like, I don't know what natural property would, be related to that, but then that would be their connection. So you can add it to the culture of the agency for recruiting. That's a really good question too. Yep.
Wonderful. Any other questions out there? Well, Sharon, I really appreciate your time today. As I said, I took lots of notes and I appreciate your presentation, especially as I'm planning our board retreat. I'm sure just looking at who all's on the call, I know several people on this call are leaders of their teams, and so hopefully they got just as much out of it. So thank you so much. Um, and we really appreciate it, and have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.